So the face is in, and we're ready to add some text. What I like about this is we can just double click where we want to add the text, like so, and it'll bring up a little shortcut reflecting what's on the insert menu, and we're going to select text. So it has to be normal text because it's part of the body of the web page, and we go ahead and type in whatever you want your students to type in here. So for mine, I got them to I had two options really. For the beginners, really, it was do a bullet point form, so their name, school, where they live, home country, likes and dislikes. Just by the way, for the name and the where you live, I made it very vague, so it's just their first name and which city they lived in. Again, linking that to personal information, not part of digital citizenship, about keeping some of that safe. But at the same time, you got to share a little bit. Okay, likes and dislikes, home country. I work at an international school, so we tend to have a lot of students from many different countries, clearly different to the one that I'm currently working in. It would be better if you could add a little bit more, so it goes down the whole way to the bottom. I mean, we can obviously resize that a little bit, like so, but then populate maybe 2 more bullet points there just to make sure it looks right for that first web page that people will click on. What I've also got the older students to do is to record a video, edit it using iMovie, and I got them to insert it below this as well. Again, it's just like an introduction video to themselves. We did a vlogging project, so that linked up really nicely as well. They even uploaded it to YouTube, kept it unlisted so no one else had access to it. Once you're happy with your About Me page, or first whatever page you're going to create, you can go ahead and preview, like I showed you before, across your 3 different platforms: desktop, tablet, and smartphone. It will be different on all 3, and it will even be different whenever you go to look at it on your own phone. So it's quite good to have another device in your class or when you're creating your site, just to see how it will appear there. Now, the next step for my students was to make another page. So we actually made a lot of other pages, and ranging from maths to PE, ICT, basically all their subjects. Now, how you go about that is you go to the pages section and then click new page. Very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and put in ICT, and that's what we study here. And what it'll do, it'll just create a couple of things. It'll create a brand new page, more or less identical to the first one, minus the avatar and bullet points. Title's the same style, which is good, and also adds in a button up here. Now, what I find a lot of my students did, they for some reason started with small letters on computing or ICT, so they had to go back and then fix it, which you can just do by navigating your way back to the pages section and going in there and changing whatever needs to be changed. Now, for this next part, what I actually got in the lesson I did this, I said to my guys, I said, look, just go ahead and make all your pages first, and then we'll add the content later. Okay, so they went in and created their math page, humanities. It depends on your school, depends what subjects you do. I mean, if it's primary, you might want to do it a little bit different to middle school, and again, different if you're at an IB school. I don't know. Okay, this is where you get creative with it. I give my students a choice. They could do, because we have the IMYC, so some of them chose to do, per unit. So they would have a unit page, say leadership, for example, collaboration, resolution, whatever, and that's just the way they did it, whereas the vast majority chose to do subjects. After you've got that bit done, so if I go back to here, it's just about the layout, really. Now, as I work at an IMYC school, I got my students to, for each subject, put in the name of the unit. They study 4 units over the year, so there'll be 4 units in here. Okay. Then going back to the section style, which I showed you earlier, I got them to change that as well. Now, you don't need to do that. It could all be the same, of course, but I do recommend at least using bold for the text here or something like that. And I'm going to go for heading. And then below here, okay, hypothetically would be your evidence. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that quickly. I'm going to put a doc in. Okay, I'm just going to put in any old doc. So this one, just to show you what it looks like. So minimize that, and then you can resize. That's way too big for a link. I got my students to fit 3 across, so 1, 2, 3 as a choice, and then below that they could put a little bit of caption text, or they could put one piece like so, and then they could reflect on that piece. So that was also quite good if you had the time to do that. So then they would just add a text box in here, okay, and then they would write a reflection piece about that work, which was really useful. You know, depending on what your curriculum, what your learning objectives or outcomes are, there's certainly ways you can incorporate that into this web page, and obviously then you can view it after they're done. You can give them feedback. You know, you can get them to share the link with you through Google Classroom, and then you can go back and then give them a little bit of feedback on that. Okay, so that was that. And then when we were creating these these initial pages, I went on to get them to do the next title, which I think we'll put in resolution. Again, that should be heading, just to make sure it matches that one. And then I changed the theme, style. So it's just reverse color scheme here, which is quite nifty actually from Google to put that in. So reverse means it's just the text color matches the background color here, more or less, and the text color matches the background color here. So that was something that they did the whole way throughout. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's a very simple program. You got to play around with it. It's not much to play around with, but certainly enough for a beginner website. And actually, when you look at it, it's perfectly acceptable. It's a neat little product from Google. I'm really grateful for it because it's allowed my students to constantly reflect on all their subject work throughout the year, which they can share with me, with their families, and of course with each other. So go ahead, play around with Google Sites, and I hope you enjoyed the video.